Madam Chairman, we're up and ready.
Okay, we're live. We'll do a roll call vote.
Okay. Senator Guru,
Excused.
Senator Landon,
Here.
Senator Salazar.
Here.
Senator Schuler,
Here.
Chairwoman Ellis.
Present. Righty. Looks like we've got a quorum today. I did visit with Senator Grew. He had another engagement, but he did leave a proxy vote from what I understand. We only have one item on our agenda. As you know, Senate File 5 did not advance yesterday. So today we just have Senate File 6, which is aquatic invasive species inspection enforcement. It's a pretty straightforward bill. I think committee members, because it is a committee bill, you're familiar with what it does. But we do have Game and Fish here who's ready to testify. So I think we'll proceed and just hear some testimony from you. Good morning, Director Nesvik.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Brian Nesvik, Director, Wyoming Game and Fish. I'll be joined up here today to help with any questions that are outside of my level of expertise on this issue. I'm joined by the Chief Game Warden, Rick King, and also our Chief of Fisheries, Alan Osterlund. So as you pointed out, Madam Chair, this is certainly a topic that this committee has showed some leadership on from the very beginning of the interim. And I recall having discussions with the committee about some of our concerns with aquatic invasive species. We began the interim on right in the middle of the whole moss ball issue and the concerns that we had revolving around the potential vector for a new vector to introduce quagga and zebra mussels into our state. So I appreciate the committee's work over the interim on looking at ways to continue to leave Wyoming in a spot where we're leading on this issue. I recall back 12 years ago now when the great late Senator Leland Christensen was a real champion for this work. He was the senator at the time that took the lead on ensuring that Wyoming put in place some good statutes that were going to help us ensure we could keep Wyoming AIS free. And I believe strongly that because of what we did, specifically with inspections, with requirements for people with the public education and the awareness that people have now of how important it is to keep these things out of our state. I think that's why Wyoming today remains free of these two specific mussels that we're so concerned about. I think as the committee's aware, the impacts here from our perspective certainly have significant consequence for our fisheries. These quagga and zebra mussels feed on kind of the low end of the food chain. And so if you remove the low end of the food chain, it influences and affects everything else that relies on the food chain. So from a fisheries perspective, potential significant impacts. From an agriculture perspective, potential significant impacts if these things were to find themselves into water delivery systems that are used for agriculture. That's a potential impact. Hydroelectric power, anything related to power generation that touches the water, potential impacts there. Potential impacts to just the infrastructure at some of our state parks. Potential impacts to our water treatment plants and municipal water systems. So I'm just reiterating some of the things that I know you're all aware of, but just to bring light to how important I think this issue is. This being the first bill that your committee is able to tackle during this session. The fact that it received the introductory vote, I think speaks to how important this issue is. I did, before I ask for any questions that you might have, I did also want to let the committee know that one of the things I brought up with you early was that we were concerned about having some kind of an insurance policy if we had to implement our rapid response plans. And we talked about a lot of different options. At the end of the day, I feel pretty good about some money that JAC has proposed to set aside for a governor emergency fund, and that emergency fund, the way that it's currently structured in the bill, gives the governor a lot of discretion to use that money for a rapid response plan response. So I think that concern from my perspective is being addressed if that bill is to pass through JAC. With that, Madam Chairman, I would certainly be glad to answer any questions or provide any additional information.
Okay, questions for Director Nesvik and his team? Senator Landon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director, way back in the old days, and thanks for bringing up Senator Christensen, my desk mate at the time. We had a little wrangle over that, and part of my heartburn with his great efforts had nothing to do with how important I thought the issue was or the game and fish. Those who know me know where my heart is. But I have to go back to that to say at that time, I brought up that I felt like every bit of our battle on this aquatic invasive species has been done by the sportsman. Again and again, we hit the sportsman with it. And so I wonder if you've given any thought to maybe having a visit with our water development folks. It sure feels like to me that there needs to be some skin in the game from other sectors of our economy. And so that's the only heartburn that remains, and it's only slight. And I want to tip my hat to all of you who've worked so hard on this. It's really been a win. And but I still have that piece of concern that that it all falls on the sportsman, and there's not a whole lot of backup from all of those things that you mentioned this morning that could be affected out there. It just feels like there might be some opportunity to get some more buy-in. Any thoughts about that, Director?
Sure,
Director?
Madam Chair, Senator Landon. So great point. It's been a subject of debate ever since the first bill was passed in 2010. I do want to point out that our partners at YDOT have stepped up. They have provided access and funding at their ports of entry to be able to help us do these inspections. They require some space and some infrastructure, and Department of Transportation has been very helpful there. Now, I do think to directly address your question, I do think that if out of the general fund, this contingency or emergency fund that we would need to use in order to implement a rapid response plan, that certainly would be money that would be derived by all citizens in Wyoming. I think that, and that was one of my asks early on, is that to find a way to pay for the response, which is way more expensive, that comes from the big pot of money, not just from sportsmen. So, I feel right now, I feel comfortable with that. And we have, when we've needed some help, State Parks has stepped up. They have provided limited manpower. We've had a lot of discussion about trying to share more of that workload. And the Department of Ag, like, for example, when we had the moss ball issue, they really stepped up and provided a lot of help, not a lot of money, but a lot of help in the form of manpower. So when we've needed them, they've come through. Water development was the same way. State engineer was involved when we put that task force together. So I guess those are my thoughts today anyway.
Madam Chairman,
Follow up?
thank you, Director. I really, I appreciate that. That helps remind me of some things. So thanks for all of that.
Further questions? Senator Schuler?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a question on, we've had a few comments on the severity of the of the issues if a person doesn't report, and those kinds of things have come up. I guess two questions. Number one, are you fairly comfortable with what we've got in the bill for fines and for them being guilty of the misdemeanor? And secondly, if we do pass this bill in its present form, do you feel comfortable with where your department would be in being able to educate the public so that they would understand the severity of the issue if this does go through? Thank you.
Director Nesbitt?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Senator Schuler, absolutely. And I think you make a great point. I think where there's some real separation between this penalty clause and what's existing is that this, in order to violate this particular provision in here, requires intent. Somebody has to have been told, you have to go get an inspection, and has to refuse to do that. A lot of the folks that we have contact with now that fail to get an inspection, as an example, many of them don't know the law. They're from out of state. They come in, they don't know. And so I think there's a pretty big difference between somebody who violates this statute and then somebody who just fails to, stop at our port of entry check station because they didn't see the sign. I think the other thing is that the wide range of fine that's involved in this gives judges a lot of discretion. And then thirdly, I would say that this makes a pretty bold statement. For those folks that are going to learn about this when they see it on a Game and Fish website, when they see it on a Facebook page, or when they see it when they read their boating brochure, it's going to send a message that Wyoming takes this really serious. This is a big deal.
Further questions for the department? I do have a few along those lines. We worked on this bill in the interim, but sometimes that seems like 1,000 years ago. And so I was looking for my notes and I couldn't quite find them. I think for what I recall though, from our discussion in the interim was by and large, that's who we're talking about are the people that are unaware of Wyoming's laws. And so there's a reluctance in issuing the citation without giving them the chance to go get their watercraft inspected or their conveyance. And so if you could refresh my memory on the statistics of how many times you issue warnings versus how many times you actually issue tickets. And then I do think we also had a discussion about how many of these people are from out of state versus in-state residents. I think that'll help strengthen our argument that, we're really not trying to target Wyoming residents who by and large understand this issue and the importance of keeping our waterways clean. This is I think what we're really targeting is out of state activity. So if you could refresh my memory with those facts, and I apologize. I have Mr. Osterland's name, but I didn't quite catch yours. So if you could readdress that, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, Chairwoman Ellis, my name is Rick King. I'm the Chief Game Warden for Wyoming Game and Fish Department. And I'll provide you some information from our 2020 annual law enforcement report. And then give you some preliminary information from 2021. But in 2020, we issued 199 warnings for failing to stop at an AIS check station. 33 of those were to residents and 166 were non-residents. And of those non-residents, 61 were from Colorado and 71 were from Utah. We issued 27.
Can you say that one more time really slowly? Sorry.
Sure. So in 2020, we issued a total of 199 warnings for failing to stop at an AIS check station. Those violations, 33 were residents and 166 were non-residents. And of those non-residents, 61 were from Colorado and 71 were from Utah.
Thank you.
You bet. In addition, we issued 27 citations. One of those citations was issued to a resident and 26 were to non-residents, with the majority of those from Colorado and Utah. And then in addition, we have a violation of launching the watercraft without having an AIS inspection. So failing to stop at the check station really doesn't involve water. It's just a boat being transported and going past a check station. But then if that person actually puts their boat on the water, it's a violation to launch without that inspection. In 2020, we issued 50 warnings. 9 were to residents, 41 were to non-residents. And we issued 2 citations, 1 to a resident and 1 to a non-resident. So a total of 52 violations. I just looked at some preliminary 2021 information and it appears that our violations are down, but I need to go back and double check and make sure we have it all tallied correct. But it looks like for failing to stop at a AIS check station in 2021, we had 107 violations. And in 2021, we had 26 launching a watercraft without an AIS inspection. But again, those are preliminary numbers.
Thank you. Further questions? Senator Landon?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. So that brings the question, how do we know they didn't stop at the check station? Do our guys just pull them over later and then radio back, or how does that work? How do we catch them?
Is it Mr. Kane?
Yes, Chairwoman Ellis, Senator Landon. So a combination. We work in conjunction with our AIS inspectors, our game wardens work in conjunction with them to monitor the activity at check stations. So if we observe boats being transported past the check station and not stopping, our game wardens will stop them. But we also encounter a lot of these violations at the lake where somebody's getting ready to launch. We contact them and check their safety equipment and other requirements, and then we discover that violation at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Senator Schuler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one, I felt like the YDOT being able to step up and use those guys when we had the issues with the outbreaks. I thought that was really important. I saw so many of those, as you know, going down I-80. And I thought those were impactful. Do you think that's something that we could use if this bill passes to, again, educate the public with some of the issues that might come up?
Director Nesbitt?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Senator Schuler, absolutely. And YDOT's been very supportive of using their dynamic messaging signs to help us out with this issue. They've been very supportive.
Okay, further questions? All righty, seeing none. Unless you have any other comments you'd like to make.
Madam Chair, I do not.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate your testimony. Is there anyone online who wants to testify? I want to just make sure I'm aware for time.
There's no attendees.
Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman.
There's no one wanting to testify online. It looks like we've got two individuals in the room. Would either of you like to testify? Yes, please proceed to the microphone.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jess Johnson with the Wyoming Wildlife Federation. I'll keep it brief. We think this is a great bill. I think seeing Wyoming put great value on our waterways and what a resource we have here is something that speaks very loudly about our sort of priorities in the state. We just wanted to commend that and support that and commit our resources as an organization to educating our members, both those within and the few that we have without the state, on this change. So it won't take folks by surprise, but thank you for this and good work.
Further questions for Ms. Johnson? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Would anyone else like to testify? Seeing no other interested parties, public testimony on this bill is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure? Bill's been moved and seconded by Senator Salazar, seconded by Senator Landon. Discussion by committee members. Senator Landon?
Madam Chairman, I too have gotten a little bit of feedback regarding the severity of the penalty in this bill. And after thinking about it this morning, I'm inclined to leave this for the debate upstairs. If there's enough heartburn, I suppose somebody, could certainly run some kind of an amendment, but I've liked our discussion this morning. I'm kind of convinced that this needs to be the kind of billboard law that gets attention. So I don't know what other committee members might feel about it. I just throw that out for discussion.
Further comments from committee members? Senator Salazar, or excuse me, Schuler?
They both start with S. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I've had some of the same, comments, a couple from legislators and a couple with folks that I know that have been following this bill. And I'm the same way. I've thought about it, just like our good senator from Casper here. And I was a little bit on the fence. Is it too tough? Is it okay? And I'm inclined to say, let's go ahead and get the discussion up on the floor and see if there's folks that really do have a heartburn. I can go with what we've got right here. As long as we educate the public and make sure that they understand the severity of if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And as long as we do that, I'm okay with it.
Okay, further comments from committee members? Thank you. I think the statistics, you're right, kind of tell the story. There are ample opportunities where we're not out to get people. Our goal is to get compliance. And so to me, that's what distinguishes this bill between other areas of our statute is that you're on notice at this point. I think that on the floor, we might have some people who are concerned about imprisonment of up to 1 year. I'd hate for us to take that out knee-jerk reaction this morning. I think when you have things like misdemeanor, there might be some requirements. So I want to make sure we understand that. So that might be some homework we do between now and when this maybe hits the floor is, if we removed imprisonment as a potential penalty, does that align with how we generally treat misdemeanors? So just kind of something for us to flag, but I can see that being an amendment on the floor. And then of course we can always adjust the fines and have that discussion. But I think the numbers speak for themselves. So I very much hope we move forward with this. Any other comments?
Madam Chairman,
Senator Landon?
just I appreciate your comments. I think that's a good approach. And I think we can actually even say that. Just say, you know, we pondered this in committee. If it's too stiff of a penalty, let's talk about that. And so I think it'll be a good discussion upstairs.
Okay. With that, we'll do a roll call vote.
Senate File 5, Senator Guru, his absentee vote was aye. Senator Landon. Senator Salazar.
Aye.
Senator Schuler. Chairwoman Ellis.
Aye.
Senate File 5. 5 ayes.
Okay, the bill passed with
To
5
pass.
ayes.
Yep.
And no nos. I think I've asked Senator Salazar if he'd be willing to carry this on the floor. And Senator, we will be armed to help you out, but we appreciate you stepping up to bring this to the floor.
Madam Chair, was it Senate File 6 or Senate? File
My
5?
apologies, Senate File 6.
Okay.
I apologize.
No,
Senate
I just
File
wanted to make sure it
6.
was on the record.
Forgive me.
Senate File 5 died yesterday. Didn't quite live to see another day. It
I'll
is
repeat, Senate File 6.
Senate File 6. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your information. With that, our meeting's adjourned.